Sure.
Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Jenna Kara Lessin. I'm here with Bret, Lueder, and Theresa J. Thurman Morris. Do your Vulcan one, the Vulcan. Anyway, there we go. We're all being Vulcans today. So we're here on, let's see, this is Aquarian Media, Bret Lueder Show, and Theresa J. Morris ET Show. And we are doing another episode in a series of episodes where we're interviewing each other because we all have had amazing, interesting lives. And this week, Theresa is on the hot seat.
Again.
Again.
Yeah.
So, Bret, would you like to start this flow of consciousness group gestalt?
I will, if you insist.
Yes, I do. Gentlemen
okay.
first.
Very good. Okay. I like that equality, right? Mm-hmm. I just saw a little bit by comedian Bill Burr talking about, why do I have to give my lady something on Valentine's Day? What does she do for me? Right? It's just kind of, it's funny the way he says it. He probably is funnier than I am.
Bill Burr said that?
Bill Burr, his name is.
From the UFO magazine?
No, this is a comedian.
Bill Burr, a comedian.
Oh, I don't know.
Send you some YouTubes. He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. Absolutely.
He's long.
Everything's UFO stuff to me. So if it's not Bill Burns, okay.
No, Bill Burr.
I
talked a long time ago, right? Bill Burr. He died.
No, Bill Burr's still alive.
He's still alive. Okay, so I don't know Bill Burr. I'm thinking the other one.
I seen Giorgio Tsoukalos thing today.
Oh, yeah?
Facebook. Yeah.
Check us out.
What kind of thing did you send him?
Facebook. I don't know. What is that?
An invite? Okay, an event.
No. Something about the other guy, Shermer, was telling him to have other people on the show, his show on History Channel. Anyway, y'all look it up on Facebook. It's Giorgio Tsoukalos. Don't ask me to spell it. The guy with the funny hair, it looks like he was Napoleon in a past life with the hair.
There you go.
Napoleon.
Okay. All right. So
past lives.
We covered quite a bit of ground with the first interview. So there's one area that I would like you to follow up on, TJ, if you will.
Are we deep diving?
We're at least waiting.
Okay.
I'm having tea with Janet. You can decide how deep you want to go. All right. But I know you've had many, many experiences, and I know Janet has a lot more detail about your background. So I'm just going to ask you a general question, right? I'm going to ask you a general question about your background because I know you've had experiences with Dulce, but possibly with Area 51. What about Montauk?
What about?
What can you tell us about Montauk? Have you been there?
Yeah,
Did your husband go there?
I don't know if he went there. I did.
Okay. How'd you do that?
With my husband.
Well, okay. See, so I thought you just said your husband didn't go there.
I don't know if he went to where I did. I don't remember him being there. He waited with his dad. They worked for Grumman. He worked for NASA at the time. It was 68 or 9 because Angela was still a baby on our hip. So we took a plane to New York. His parents lived there because he was working at the secret place there at Grumman. But starting off with Montauk, that was an interesting place. But I met we drove a while because they lived out on Montauk Point, very fancy area, and upper crust, I guess one might say. They just got a very nice, huge home and lived a nice life. So Gigi was, Angela was born March 25th, 68, and she was about a year and a half. So it's probably 69, 70 right in there. So went there and met some guys in white coats. I saw the plane where you go in. And actually, that was a very interesting time because I was young and just using my abilities at the time. But what I remember may not be the best way to start off the show. I don't know where you guys want to go with all this.
Yeah, I would just if you didn't have any kind of a memorable experience there, then that's fine.
Can I redirect? What was the reason for your visit? What was the purpose of going there?
I don't know.
Did you go to the facility that we know of as Montauk, the underground facility, where Peter Moon and Preston Nichols and Stuart Swerdlow, were you a part of that?
The way they describe it from 76 forward is much later than when I was involved. When I was there were men in white coats. It was an underground facility, but it looked like there was little ETs there at the time I was there. There was a big cement wall, very, very thick underground, like an old U.S. government place underground. And there was a very thick wall, and there was a couple little ETs looking things.
What kind of
not sure. They look like little Japanese or Chinese men, about 4 feet or so, 2 of them. And I think my job was to communicate.
All right.
It was ET. I'm sure it was more of that.
Between who?
Me and them.
Okay.
But they're behind a big, thick glass and big, thick cement wall.
Did they have a message for you, or did you have a message for them?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. All right.
I remember the men in the jackets, and I know that when everything was supposed to be, hush, hush and all that. They always say that. And it was very classified, I'm sure, but I wasn't told that. I never am told that. So, but I was just a teenager, and this was after my husband I had already been briefed through Chris Kraft at NASA in Houston. So this was after Houston, NASA, and when his father left NASA and went to Grumman, New York. He's deceased now. So all I know is something was going on, and it had to do with beings that I can't confirm or deny they were from another planet. But why was I there to speak with them psychically? Can't tell you. I just know that they looked scared. And
they looked scared.
Yeah. They looked scared.
Okay. Well.
And I think it was through the Air Force. I always seemed to be through the Air Force rather than the Navy. Later on, everything I did was Navy. But at that particular time, whatever Grumman had some contract or whatever up there at Long Island, Montauk.
Did they prep you before you saw them, or did they just sit you down and all of a sudden you're looking at aliens? And what did you think when you saw them?
Why are they behind the wall in the glass?
Yeah.
It was thick. It was very thick. The first thing I thought was it was very thick cement and very thick glass. Right.
Do you remember anything about the entrance?
Yeah, and I've actually seen.
It was a regular building in the beginning, but no, I don't remember like elevators.
I've seen what you're talking about.
You did?
Yeah, I have seen a place that you're describing perfectly, and I didn't see anything in it at the time, and I was wondering, why are these walls so thick and this glass so thick?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't find any way in or out. So anyway, for that, do you think that was for your protection so that they couldn't attack you?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
They weren't hostile. I knew that. They were very docile. It was just the opposite. But I don't know if it was back in the day in the 60s, we were scared of anything that had anything to do with nuclear or foreign. So nothing, I was given no information, no books, nothing to read. I was a teenager. I was married to a guy at NASA, and, I was supposed to be doing public relations, ambassador work, but they knew I had psychic abilities from the time I was, brought in.
Right. So they knew you already that you were psychic. And how did you know they were docile?
You just know. You can look at them and tell, and you feel it. It's a knowing. It's a feeling. Yeah. It's a knowing. You just know. I felt their fear, and I felt their compassion, and to be honest with you, I felt like I don't know any of this. This is my opinion, but I felt like they were captured, and that they were there wanting to know. They want to go home. It felt like they were from Sirius or somewhere. Some other place.
Anything else that you kind of intuited from your conversation?
The Dropas, what we call in China, those Dropa stones or something, and then Egypt was mentioned somewhere in that era, and how to communicate, and back in Tibet in the past lives and 15,000 years ago, all that kind of stuff was mentioned. It's a knowing train of thought that just comes in, but I don't know what it meant exactly. I just felt like they weren't hostile. They just were scared and they wanted to go back home.
Right.
But that's all I said.
Who was with you from our government, or who were the humans that were there?
Steve and Don Parrish had to wait outside, way up or wherever they were. See, they took me in. They thought I was going into a doctor's office for some kind of checkup. And then the men in the white coats took me, it felt like down and over, right, in the cement. And then they took me in this room, and then nobody said anything. They just watched as usual.
Were they filming it?
Yeah, I think so. But I couldn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I could overhear from somewhere on another wall or whatever. But I was, they were in front of me, way, way far away. I mean, like you can see over to the left a big thick wall with thick glass, and they're sort of peeking up, like.
So that was the humans or the aliens?
The little ETs. There's two of them.
ETs were peeking up. Okay. So how far away do you think you were from them? 5 feet, 10 feet, 50 feet?
I would say on the other side of the room when I first came in, probably 10, 12 feet. It was a nice size room, but still it was you felt enclosed. You felt in an enclosure and under. It's like somehow you're down, but you can't see. There was no windows. There was just a glass and, very thick, like 2 feet thick glass inside the cement. So I've always had that, and I never knew what happened. I know that afterwards I got really sick.
Wait, well, let me finish this part, and then we'll go to afterwards. Okay. So when you were down there, what humans were with you?
Just the men in the white coats.
How many men were there?
I can only remember one handling me, or, with a clipboard like you expect, or doctor, or I don't remember anybody else, but I know I knew they were there. There were men, there were people, or men there, but only one that I could see.
Do you have any idea how long you were there? No concept of time.
Too long ago.
And how many minutes you spent there? Was it in 10 minutes, a half an hour? No idea. Okay. So what happened? How did the session end?
They just wanted to know what, they took information from me, what I felt, what I knew about
after you're done communicating, is that after they talked to you afterwards to see what you got from the session?
Yeah, because they weren't talking. They were just looking at me with their big eyes. And the guy just wrote down what I said.
So what did you say?
What do you feel? What do you see? What do you think? Where do you think you're from? They're just taking down my impressions.
Right. What did you answer for what
I just told you about?
Where are they from? You said Sirius?
12 or 15,000 years. Sirius.
Okay.
Sirius B. And that they talked about, communicating, but it wasn't the Andropa stones, because those aren't even proven myth or legend, but something to do with communication and the way in the past with certain minerals that we didn't have on this planet. That's why they come and go.
Oh, because they're here to mine minerals.
Something like that. Exchange or communicate. I think Eisenhower had already set this up.
Right.
I didn't really know much. It's so funny. That's a very small portion of my reality, if you know what I mean. It was like a visit, go in, see whatever I saw, do what I did, make the impression, get the feeling that these beings are very, very old. They come and go as they please under something to do with Eisenhower. And Grumman had a stake in it, or, government contractors had a stake in it. I was under the impression they were trying to find out how to come and go from this planet in the future or in the present. Like they were trying to find out what minerals were missing or what we were missing. I think it was because later on I have that experience, with Tom later on in my life.
Well, we'll cover that after we.
So I'm sorry I don't have more guys.
No, this is great. This is all you have. It's
in and out and move on.
People would die to have one experience like you've had. You've had hundreds of them. I have a friend that he said I would love to just have one of the episodes that you've had, Janet. And he said, so most people would be totally fascinated to have just one in their whole life. And you've had a whole series of these.
It leaves you very curious, though. I mean, think about it. That's when I was a teenager, and it only gets better from there.
Right. Yes.
At least I start wondering more. Back then I just got real sick and my stomach.
Yeah, tell us about that.
They just took me to the doctor. They never told me what was wrong with me.
Were you nauseous? Did you have a headache? Did you hurt
all
somewhere?
of that? I felt like I was pregnant. And bleh, I wanted to throw up. I couldn't throw up, and it was like I was seasick. It was like, afterwards. I don't know what happened to me or what they gave me, or if they gave me sodium pentothal, or I don't remember any of that. It always seemed like anywhere I went with the government or they'd give me sodium pentothal or something, or breathing something, a spray or, you know what I mean? And I didn't know. I just always seemed to get sick or runny eyes or, these episodes.
Something from that. Yeah. Bret, do you have any follow-up questions?
Well, I just have a comment. Reading the Montauk books, it's been a little while for me, but I do remember that there was a mental hospital that figured prominently in the Montauk story saga, and so it just sounds at least possible that maybe that's where they took you into the building with the doctors with the white robes and the clipboard, and then going downstairs and over. Supposedly there was tunnels between the mental health ward facility and the actual underground base.
So I've never been accused of being crazy, if that's what you mean.
No,
it's just an entranceway, right? That's why I asked you about the entranceway, because they're all concealed in a variety of ways.
Right. I've been underground a lot to know what it feels like. Yeah.
Right.
The long halls and
So for future reference, I actually recently met the granddaughter of the gentleman that used to be the head administrator of that mental hospital on Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a future investigation that's waiting to happen.
Let's move on, because I can't.
I have one more follow up, and then we'll do another. Okay. So what they did at Montauk a lot was they gave you LSD.
Oh.
You think you may have had it? LSD was legal for many years, and the government used it to.
Why would they choose me to do that too? And then I see little men behind what?
Doors of perception. It opens
one at a time, ladies.
Yeah. Why would they choose you? Because it opens the doors of perception. It opens gateways. It opens portals, Stargate within, and it allows you access higher information than beyond your 5 senses physicality. So that's why they do that. You connect.
Well, I can't confirm or deny, but I don't remember getting anything like that. But okay. But
did they offer you anything to drink before you? Did you have anything? Well, they could.
They didn't stick me.
No, I'm not saying sticking. I'm saying, did you drink or eat or?
I may have drank something, water or something. Yeah.
Yeah. They could have put it in the water. Yeah.
Yeah. I might have even asked for something. I don't even know. But those are things I can't.
You wouldn't taste it. It's tasteless. You wouldn't taste it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. But, it kept me on my spiritual path. I've always stayed true. And, I just had all those psychological tests done myself and paid an extra, almost $400 extra on top of my insurance to make sure, I'm as sane as most average people, or some tests are even better. And, find out I was maybe eccentric. That's about it.
That's it. Okay. Bret, I asked a lot of questions. Do you have another question?
Sure. Okay, so TJ, do you think it's possible that you had any kind of monarch programming, maybe from
No,
Montauk or another place?
I was working with my husband in NASA. We were very pro NASA, getting off the planet. If anything, I'd been speaking with people that had the Mutual UFO Network out of Wisconsin, and they were moving down to the NASA group. And this was, I think, how I got into a Black Ops, or working with men and women in black under PsyCorps, with
Okay.
people on and off space, in and out of space. Because remember, I'd already worked with people extraterrestrially by this time. Remember, in the past when I talked about I died second grade and saw angels, then I went to White Sands and my uncle worked at Los Alamos. Do you remember that, Bret?
I do.
All this had already happened to me, so they already knew I could communicate with extraterrestrials, or I was one.
Well, is that why they had you around then? You were
of course, yes.
The person that was specifically skilled in that into communication. So you were there on many occasions in case they needed somebody to translate or communicate.
That's what I've always done. I'm a communications officer.
Okay, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, okay, just one
with
last
my higher level too.
What would you think, TJ, is your most memorable experience as a communicator or translator with ETs?
Throughout my entire life, communications.
Yeah, pick your most memorable one and tell us about it.
Oh gosh, I don't know, but my most memorable one would be the most recent one in Gulf Breeze, Florida, when the gentleman came down. The one I'm most proud of is the one I told you about. I thought, or Janet about, where a ship came through this galaxy, and told me to keep doing what I was doing. Right, that's the most memorable, because the person that felt like a Jesus Christ personage or an avatar master, that zapped me up to the ship. But then, I've had the ship that came down in St. Louis, Missouri, but this one was flying over and brought me up. That's when I saw Philippe Coppens. Right.
How recent? How recent was that?
Probably 2022.
Okay, in Gulf Breeze. Okay, interesting.
There's a UFO video of something. I mean, all these things. Janet would say, "Well, document it or put it on this or that," and I would say, "Well, I only do video." Well, she wants to do a video. So all these videos are on our ACO Club or Psychic Channel Network. And the last one was the two guys came back after that ship went over with the gentleman that I would call Jesus Christ, but depends on who you talk to, is say you're crazy, right? Everybody has that messianic complex, in the spiritual science world. I'm not, I believe scientifically you've got to prove everything with facts, because I'm an investigator by trade, but spiritually, I know there's things we can't prove. There's, two things and you bring them together and we move forward, but that's tangible and non-tangible. So, but the person that I saw was very human, and he was directing all the beings over, and that very tall Chinese lady that didn't like me, if you remember that story. And then Philip Coppens is one at the helm, Philippe Coppens, and I spoke to his, I didn't speak to her. How do you say this? Made a comment, which I very, very rarely do through the years, but I did. Philippe Coppens' wife today too, which is strange. But Janet, the redhead that you met, she's a friend of mine on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, I met her in Vegas. I was visiting a friend, and she said, "I'm busy on the phone."
I wanted
to walk around the house, and I walked in the room. Can't remember it. I went in and I said hi. She was just a person. She said, "Oh, I'm Philippe Coppens' wife," and he just died like 2 weeks before.
She's a beautiful woman, and she's been on History Channel. I can't remember her name, and I just didn't talk to her. I commented on a comment she made to Giorgio Nicolos on Facebook. Yeah. I don't know why she and I were interfaced. I don't. It's strange, but anyway, Philippe, I want her to know, but I haven't told her because I haven't ever had a physical encounter with her. Just a knowing, I mean, we've had.
Let me comment on that. So Philippe was already dead when you met him on the ship,
Right.
And that's what Whitley Strieber talks about. He says that people often meet people that are deceased on spaceships.
Okay.
And there you're another person that met someone that's deceased.
Right. None of this ever surprises me because it's just my life, but I know not everybody. So this is the thing we're doing now is we're expanding everyone's universe. So mine opened up when people started, as a child, that was one thing. And then to have these experiences through NASA or the government was another thread. But then to have another level, after COVID-19 with people pulling me up, even though I have, dreaming, lucid dreaming, and then the next stage, interdimensional phase spacing travel, which I already had, been trained to do. So I've got a lot of money invested in me. But this last time when the gentleman got up in my face, they brought a small craft down from one of the larger crafts. And, he got right in my face and the third eye opened right here. Right. And he told me to start writing it. In other words, communicating and writing. And now it's the time finally, So, and I haven't really had much of that during 2023. But anyway, it's recorded somewhere in video that they came down, the two gentlemen. And the back opened up and the woman was in white again. And I remembered that. And so interdimensionally, that's very important, I think, that we're looking into not just this universe, but another universe. And how do we explain we feel like we're in two places at one time, but yet we probably are, because we have our conscious, subconscious, superconscious, and that which observes us, and then those that observe us. And I believe there's always those observing us down here and I always have been. That's just my opinion because of the people I've met and their different lifespans. And so a lot of the knowledge I have dealing with extraterrestrials. But I think it's supposed to be time now that we're talking about this. And a lot of people are, including people in the government or left government service or intelligence, So I don't know where we're supposed to go with this, but from what I've seen with my videos, I don't tell anybody they're out there, so they don't know the knowledge is there. So what I'm learning about what I'm doing in my role that I've accepted, and I guess you could say the disclosure project, is watching everybody observe how they're going about doing it, during our lifespan while we're here in human form, the three of us and others that have accepted this role. Is we're basically the historians, right? And if you think about how many people are on the planet right now, we had the tipping point. I thought it's 7 billion, but it turned out to be roughly 8 billion before we got around to doing what we're doing now. And that's accepting that alien civilizations exist and alien contact is evident, always has been. And I think that's how we're going to start studying our out-of-body experiences and our near-death experience and our past lives. And that's what these gentlemen were trying to teach, and even Jesus Christ in Ascension. And why the three of us have got the Ascension Center is to teach people how to do what we do with our minds and, have these beings trust us enough with whoever they are. I feel like we're ants down here. So you want to get on with, look at some of the things on your list, Janet.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, you can say next question anytime you want to.
Next question.
Okay. So let me, today is Valentine's Day. And I know, Theresa, you've had.
Got my red on.
You have your red and you've had
I'm very culture minded.
All your
ancient wisdom, new thought teachings,
All your husbands or your ex-husbands are dead.
Oh, you froze on us a bit there, Janet.
Oh, all your ex-husbands are deceased, correct?
You could say that.
Yeah, in the honor of Valentine.
Not on this planet. Left their bodies here, containers here.
Their human bodies. Okay. Well, let's start with your first husband. Who was your first husband?
Stephen Lee Parrish.
And how'd you meet?
Well, let's get Stephen Lee Parrish. He was the one that worked for NASA. Chris Kraft, he's the one that I went to see James Bond movie with, right? And we got actively recruited.
How long have you known him? Was it grade school, high school?
I'd known him. We'd gone steady a year. I wore his class ring when he was a senior and I was a junior? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sophomore, junior. There's 4 grades, right? But the 9th, I'd already completed 10th, 11th, 12th. So I was in the 11th. He was in the 12th. I'd known him about 2 years.
How did you know he was the one for you when you were going to marry and fall in love with?
I didn't. I just, well, I guess you could say I did. I went with Larry, which my granddaughter's in the next room. Her name's McVeigh. But the first guy I ever dated took me to the prom. Just came to the new high school from West Monroe High School to James Madison High School. And Larry, I think he played a tuba, baritone, something huge. And he took me, and that's when I saw Steve. And I knew I was going to marry Steve then when I saw him first. But I don't know why I knew that, but I knew it. He brought the prettiest girl from our dance class with Patsy Swayze taught ballet tap, at least ballet back then, but and who was Camille Longhill. So the girl was in our dance class, and very beautiful girl. I was really shocked that he brought her. I was mesmerized by him because he had the prettiest girl in our dance class at the senior prom. I didn't even know he knew somebody down there, right? It turned out he had been playing the bongos for Camille Longhill. She had Tommy Tune too. I don't know if y'all know who Tommy Tune is. Anyway, it was back in the day in New York.
Back in the day.
Yeah, Patrick Swayze.
So you were attracted to him, and he asked you out, or did you ask?
I was a majorette, and he was the drum major, and I don't know. We were at the high school games. I think one day I went home and told Mother. He asked me if I'd go for pizza after, and Mother let me go. It was sort of we're in high school, so it's like she let me meet him at the pizza parlor near both. We both lived in the same neighborhood. Oddly enough, a lot of NASA people lived. It's very modern. 4-bedroom, 2-bath homes. Nothing, some of them were 2 stories, but I don't know, a diplomat lived on the corner. I babysitted for him, but it's a nice neighborhood, upper scale. So
you went to the movie called James Bond. Okay, he had a car. Go ahead. He had a car.
Well, that was the first time he took me, was after a football game pizza. And then he asked me out after that. We went down, and that's when we met the Men in Black. Right, came out the side.
Tell us about, you went to a James Bond movie, and then what happened?
Some men escorted us out the side of the door afterwards, out to the side on the cement, very strong, heavy cement blocks, the steps going down with a pipe rail on it. But what was odd is, why would anybody be escorting us out, much less several men dressed in black, right? But back then, men wore suits, right? So, but they escorted us out, which was strange because we were going against the grain, going against all the people after the movie, but they got behind us and in front of us and pushed us through and saying, excuse me. And we were like, well, what? They were like, well, we just need to talk to you or something. But they were just gradually pushed us out and the side fire exit door. And that's when the smoking man was down at the bottom of the stairs and, recruited us into the government. That was in 67.
How did they do that? How did they say that? What did they say?
You want to work for us? What do you want? What do you do? You like that kind of work? Remember, or watching the show, and how would you like to do that kind of work? And what you think? They start off. What do you think of the movie? We just want to talk to you. Everything's okay. Blah blah blah, and just basically talk to us about the movie and how we'd like to do that kind of work. And Steve told him, well, you just sort of know. It's not like mention the government, or I don't know how they get around saying who they are. I don't, but they do. And Steve said, well, I've got 5 scholarships and, I'm looking all around. He hadn't joined NASA yet. So he wasn't sure, but I said, I do. I want to. I was all gung ho. I want to do that kind of work, So that's sort of how I got into, I think, intelligence work or investigation. It turns out we don't know if that was Air Force Carl Sliker or not, or if that was NASA. Because back in the day when I'd also had the guy that came out to the football game, right? Went under the bleachers and invited me under. So, I was talked to about working for the government 2 or 3 occasions. And then later on in my life as well. So anyway.
Bret, any questions on this?
It's just the whole mind control thing is such a fascinating subject, TJ. So they're showing you a James Bond movie as almost like a PR pitch to you, right?
It was a movie for everybody. It was a regular theater. We just happened to go there.
Right. Okay, so have either of you seen the new movie Argyle with Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's daughter?
No.
Okay, so I would definitely recommend it. It's a little campy, a little cheesy, but basically what it is this author is writing books about spy situations or spy novels, right? Mm-hmm. And then it turns out that she's actually an agent that allowed herself to be mind controlled into a different personality to perform an operation. So have you experienced anything, any kind of weird day? I know you've experienced a lot of bizarre situations. Can you speak to anything that might have a point of time in any experience where you're like, wow, this is not who I was, or you're playing a different role, or involved in a situation you had no idea maybe how you got there? Anything like that?
Probably.
Right? Okay.
I probably lived most of my life like that, but I don't want to come across as a crazy or I've always been in control, as far as I know, of my conscious and chosen the things, but I have been guided. But I do have a full stream of consciousness, from the time I was born until now as an observer. But anything that I've been involved with now, when I channeled material and I stepped aside, that's like you've talked to people about, you don't know where it's coming from, but it depends on if you're conscious enough to step by and observe yourself speaking, which I have that ability to do as well. But, being trained, there's a lot of money put into me, a lot of money by the government put into me, my training, lots.
Okay. So was there a project name that you were involved in?
A whole lot of them.
Can you throw out 1 or 2 names for us?
Well, are we going to write these books or not? But I don't.
Can I'll do in the books? We will flesh it out more in the books. It's just I want
to help people, and I want to help them understand. But at the same time, there's those that are going to believe and those that aren't, and those that want to know and those that probably. The only ones that ever had a need to know were usually the engineers and the contractors wanting to work on spacecraft, right? So that was always, we had to worry about national security, or that's the key word, or other, the Russians, Chinese being ahead of us. But think about it, even GE still has blades on jets. They're classified. You know what I'm saying? In other words, there's things that y'all probably don't even think about as being classified. Okay. So
do you remember any project names that we could maybe go look up?
Well, you're not going to believe them anyway. But yeah, there's plenty declassified.
Well, who says I'm not going to believe it?
Well, go look at Black Vault. John Greenwald, he's got quite a few. And then anything you go into the CIA, look under declassified, or FBI. I mean, I've even pulled them all to see if they were there, and they're there. So, but it won't help to know the key word, because all they do is change it. And, just because you have a code word, but, as far as for entertainment, what we do, I've called them Project Pegasus. That's how I got to know our friend, and how I've got a Pegasus on my leg. We mentioned that in one other show. Okay. What's his name? Andrew Bashago. Yep. And he says it Basiago, but Bashago is proper way. You'll hear it all kind of ways, Basiago. But Andrew and Janet and I talked to him at Well, we actually spent a lot of time with him, and so that's one thing. But I found it very curious how many different people in our UFO business that broke up after the big bust, after A-Tips and To the Stars Academy, all that happened, and then COVID-19, and then we had 2020 breakup. But see, I've been retired since 2017. So I came in on a leap year, 4/29/85 to 93, and they had me sign another contract in Fort Hood. So, I've trained Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and I've learned a lot. And then I've been a GS, and I've been a civilian, and I've been a reservist, and I've learned a lot, worked in contracting, how the contractors work, and worked Navy Regional Finance Center. And, then I went to Washington, D.C. again. So between 67 and 87, that was a 20-year span. So I've got places and things in and out of country. And that's how Janet said Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She said that. I think she's seen, well, you and Tom are the regular Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Well, there's a new series out, and I haven't watched it yet. There's a new series out, a new Mr. and Mrs. Smith that's out on.
I was like younger, faster, and thinner, stronger. It's hard to believe now.
41 minutes into the show. Let's do that. So, how is it that you and Tom Morris is your final husband, right?
He was the one that was Ronald Reagan in 85, and we had Star Wars with Ronald Reagan in 80, and he and
what was his role with Ronald Reagan?
We worked with Jimmy Carter a little bit, and not Rosalind much, but the secretary that worked for Carter, and then the hostages, Iraq. You remember Iran and all of
let's
that.
Back that. Let's not go into. Let's
Yeah.
Watching
I
let's unpack.
The history.
You're saying were you with Tom when he was working with Reagan?
Yes.
Okay, so let's focus on Reagan. Did Tom working with Reagan?
I met Ronald Reagan, remember, Janet, in Houston while he was still governor of California.
Tom, right? So we're good.
I met Reagan way before. I met Reagan Bush.
Right now, let's just focus on your time with Tom and Reagan.
Okay.
We're running out of time here. Let's do. We don't have to do it sequentially. We can flashback. So we'll do that at a future show.
We can deep dive.
Yeah, let's go right now into your time with Tom Morris, and he passed in what year?
2015, December 4th, 2015. We buried him. Oh wait, was that Paul recently? Shoot. See how old I'm getting, 72. Paul died December 4th. He died on the 2nd, and we buried him on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day.
Okay. Which one was that? Tom?
Tom in 2015, yeah.
Okay. So you had you met Tom when you were driving a truck, but let's focus on the time period where he worked for Reagan. So
that was before we met on driving a truck.
So you met him when he was working for Reagan? Or after he worked for Reagan?
Well, I already met Reagan. It's complicated. I had already met Reagan and Bush.
Tom. When did you meet Tom?
4/9/85.
Okay. And was he working for Reagan at that time?
Oh, wait. 4/9/95.
So he was done
1995. Working. He began working for Ronald Reagan 1980 through 1993. Okay. When Reagan came to office, from Carter to President Reagan.
All right. So he told you about all those experiences, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Not all of them. Some of them.
So let's focus on
The Package.
Right. So let's focus on his
time. He wrote
time.
the book, CIA Lies, Spies, and Something.
Okay. So what do you know about Tom's work for Reagan?
Well, what he told me, and then when we were on investigation, and then when we drove together, we pulled for the U.S. Treasury and went through Denver, and he told me about some stuff that was kept from Roswell there in Denver, Colorado, below, where they keep the money, like you have Sacramento, Denver. We were pulling
this stuff. You have to fill us in.
Oh, right.
I know nothing.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Tom and my code name was Magic, and that was assigned to me because of Majestic 12, from what I understand. So code name Magic would be like a project I'm working on, right? So I don't know any of this till later. I mean, but the gentleman that was black, another black man, introduced Tom and I. I had just been on the road 8 weeks in and out of DC, Jersey, training with FFE and reefers on 18 wheelers, right? Pulling 43-foot trailers back and forth from Dallas to New Jersey. And walked in after training, and they said, you're going to, they did something to my truck to make sure I stayed there because Tom was late getting in. He was a trainer, but I just got through training, so he wasn't going to be my trainer. But the government or whoever, there was a government man that worked there I met that had another office next door to where I was getting my orders to go to the mountain that they made the TV Stargate about, Cheyenne Mountain, going to Cheyenne Mountain, pulling loads to there. And we had to get a classified clearance to go up there, snowing and anyway, go to Cheyenne Mountain. So I had to wait for that. So when he came in, a black man introduced, I say black because it helps my memory remember, the place I was. And I mean, red, yellow, black, white, blue, I've seen all colors of people, but it's just helping me remember. But that gentleman introduced us. And then the other gentleman that was colored of color, told me my code name was Magic. I was like, okay. But I don't learn about all the other stuff till later. I learned Strom Thurmond and the gentleman you and I worked in and out of, Dan Anoya's office, with Reed and all that stuff in Hawaii later. But Tom and I met in Lancaster, which is a part of Dallas, Texas. And from there, we started putting together that book you've got. Scared the crap out of me because apparently later on you and I realized that he met me at the end of a barrel, which was due to him being assigned to me being assigned in Africa. So that's how we started, But Janet, you know how long it's taken to put this together? Yeah. It gets complicated really quick. It's hard to follow the storylines because there's so many storylines going on at the same time. And now, I feel like what I want to do is make sure people know why all these other storylines are coming out, because I started writing about this stuff in 2007 after I'd met with Stanton Friedman, told Stanton I was coming out.
And the more they write, you're going to remember more. But let's kind of back on track. So you met Tom, and you met him after he was working for Reagan. So let's focus on that period.
He was my assignment by the government.
Yes, he was your assignment, and you were his assignment. So that's why you're the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And TJ didn't find out.
Africa.
I was interviewing TJ and Tom on a radio show, and it came out that he first saw Theresa when he had his sights on a man he was going to assassinate. He was going to assassinate this man, and he was looking down his barrel, and he first saw Theresa putting a flower on this man's lapel at a very fancy place overlooking a golf course in South Africa. Correct me if I have these details wrong.
Yeah, but we don't want to give out too many details on that when we're trying to expose disclosure.
Anyway, so he's assigned to assassinate this gentleman. Theresa doesn't know what she's told. She's dressed in a gown, and she puts a flower. She's greeting people, and she puts a flower on this man's lapel. Do you remember what kind of flower it was? A
yellow rose of Texas.
Yellow rose. And she steps away, and he goes over dead.
Yeah, but I didn't know that at the time.
No, you didn't know that.
People rushed me out the side after a sound.
We're not putting any blame on you. You didn't know.
Remember how Alfred
on the show? Let me just recount this. I said to Tom, "When did you first?" And I said, "When did you first see Theresa?" And he said, "Oh, actually, it was at the end of my barrel, my sight on my barrel." And we went, "What?"
Yeah.
And then that's on the show live. She says, "I was, you discovered it. You were my assignment
out there on the radio.
Yeah, it's out there that you were each other's assignment." And I said on the show, "Oh my God, you two were the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You were assigned to each other." And she didn't discover it until she was live. They were live on the show, and so that was pretty.
It had to be after that show, or that show had just been released. Bret, who was it? Janet, the original. I don't know who wrote it, or it was just similar, but you said it. And
I had already seen the movie.
And he and I had seen the show too. But yeah, see, what it is, Janet, the last time we started bringing this stuff out, Alfred Lambermont Weber got all, excuse me, happens every time. Remember, Alfred got down on me like, well, he was a Christian. He was raised Catholic. He went all religious on me. Like, didn't I know what I was doing? Like, no, I didn't. I had no idea.
This is a key, Bret, you're witnessing. Whenever you try to talk about something that is part of the program that you're not supposed to talk about, you'll sometimes cough. You'll get confused. But
same thing.
And so here we are, this network of friends that are all doing shows, and we're revealing information, and they get triggered. And so this has happened. This is why I don't talk to half of the people I used to talk to, because everybody's getting triggered from this programming. Are we all programmed, Bret? We're all programmed.
I don't know. I think it's all
to varying degrees. I would say yes.
Yeah. And we're not supposed to reveal this, but if it can come out, like right now we're talking about
interdimensionally, it's like games. You don't want to
signal. We haven't been blanked out. None of us passed out. Theresa got to drink water. I think it is time that we are able to reveal this, because
that's what I'm told, but it sure is hard. Because think about it. Remember how Alfred Lambermont Weber, and we didn't go back on his show because he felt like I was an assassin. I was like, no, or I did something terribly devious wrong to humanity. And I was like, I didn't even know what I was doing there, much less you got to know the whole story. It's like Whoopi Goldberg. You're just going and doing what you're told by somebody else, and you're trying to help, and you think you're doing good. And, you got to realize the whole story.
They tell you you're a patriot. They tell you you're a white hat, that you're doing good for the country. You're saving the world. They appeal to your, your good heart, that you actually want to do good, but you're actually doing the stuff that's questionable.
Well, you don't even, each person has a piece, right. And that's why I believe that there's a Men in Black, and that there are people above and beyond the black budgets that they talk about, the billion. And now we have stories all over YouTube about that, because I've watched some today. And, it's very intriguing that some of these guys have left the intelligence world and are now working, with Luis Elizondo, our other agents, on these black ops, or they recruited John Greenwald because he had the vault, right? And he wrote about me years ago when I was writing for Dirk Vanderplug in Canada, about this stuff. So I've been trying to expose this stuff for years, literally years, and doing the best I could to put Easter eggs.
It's not supposed to be out. Videos, radio shows. So you've been trying, and you've told me about
staying alive. Think about how many people have been killed. Kevin Smith.
Yes.
So Kevin got it. Dirk got it. They're all heart attacks.
But Steve, if you're able to say this, then the time is now. Right.
But yeah, I have a lot to talk about, but I don't want to be subpoenaed, because it won't make sense, and people will be drawing their own conclusions from the patterns they have in their own heads, and they won't give me time to explain everything through the years that I went through. I wasn't a bad guy, and Alfred Lambermont Weber made his assumption. Did he not? How many years had he known me?
It doesn't matter.
In radio.
We're all we're all part of this puzzle, and nobody's, to blame. We're all being manipulated, controlled. And so
in some way,
I love everybody. I'm sorry we've ever had a crossword or disconnect or anything.
Yeah,
and I hope you forgive me. We're all good people, but we are in this simulation, this whatever this is, a game.
I feel like there's higher levels.
We're not of the whole thing, but we can try to become and maintain being good people. That's why I come to the conclusion at 70 years of age that the only thing I can really do is be nice to the people around me.
Just be nice. The light. Yeah. Well, there's some masters out there that are doing that work. And that was, I could do that. I could go just be a guru. We work with mystics, oracles, psychics, sages, seers. That was my job, is to bring everybody together. And that's what I did. And I taught for years and years. And then, I was still doing investigation to pay my bills, and then I was doing psychic work to pay my bills. There was nothing wrong with that because I charged for my time on a contract or on a project, as, Bret mentioned, this project or that project. I charge for my time. I don't charge for the knowledge. I am, just a channel or a interpreter or a communicator, and the information comes through me, through my higher self and down to my lower levels, and then I try to do the best I can to communicate them. But the government and other people were using me because they knew I was tuned into extraterrestrials. And whether other people or John Q. Public believed, they didn't care. As a matter of fact, it made their work easier if they didn't. If you know what I mean.
That's the main point. Yeah.
Right. So, they come and go as they please.
Time here. Do you guys want to continue, do another 10 minutes? Or do you
there's a lot of stuff I want to cover, but we didn't.
Let's go another 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, go 10 minutes. Brad, do you want to direct the next question?
Yes. Okay. So Theresa, each time we have an interview, each time I talk to you, I learn more and more about you. You are a vast chasm of knowledge and experience.
Is that a good thing?
I think so. I think so. Okay. For me, in my material world, rooted in the ground focus, sometimes you're a little incomprehensible to me.
And I understand that. I am to me too.
Right. So, but several times throughout the conversation, I'm picking up, and I think Janet is too, that there is something that you've possibly been involved with that you might not know about.
Okay.
With just and I'll just say this as a blanket statement. Most of the people that I know that have had government careers in any kind of similar work to you all have this to varying degrees, these programming issues. And not that I don't. I've got my own programming issues, but I'll tell you, I met a gentleman named Stuart Swerdlow, who was a survivor of the Montauk Project, right? And he's written, I think he and his wife Janet now have got like 40 books out. These guys are just incredibly, kind of like Sasha and Janet, just pumping out material. And I don't know how they do it, right? I'm struggling with my third book. But he said some stuff about me that I was like, how could you possibly know that? And then so he says that, I may have had some kind of activity involvement in the past. So I would definitely like to see you and Stuart talk at some point.
We have.
Have you? Okay. Because I think
he's a very sweet guy. I liked him a lot.
He's very sweet. He's a big teddy bear, big Russian teddy bear. That's right.
Yeah. Janet, you remember bringing Stuart on? Janet didn't.
I'll have to look that up. But Stuart, we flew over to. We didn't stay at Janet and Stuart's house, but we worked there.
I didn't go there. He was on my radio.
This is a number of years ago. I forget the name of their conference. They do an annual conference, at least they did back then. And so we presented Tantra. We weren't really doing the UFO stuff real big, but we were doing it. But we were. So I had Stuart. Stuart stayed at my house for like a week, and we did a bunch of workshops here. Same thing. He said the Maui people are the most programmed people on the whole planet. Wow. because all the characters that go to the UFO stuff came to my house to Stuart's stuff. And I think we had Sheldon Neidel here too. I don't know if it was the same time, but we had a big potluck dinner, and there was just 2 or 3 dozen people at the house. So anyway, I know Stuart very well. I know his story very well. Janet's. Right. So Stuart said to me, Janet sort of cries every time I mention your name. And he was staying at my house, and I just dropped what I was doing. I just said, wait a minute. I can't let you get away with it. What do you mean your wife cries whenever you mention my name? He says, because you two were part of the program together. Janet says that I'm her twin. Okay. Really? And I said, really? I said, really? And he says, I said, what? You mean we were in these Illuminati? He goes, no, you were working on opening stargates and portals.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Higher consciousness. So anyway, I talked with her in person. And my husband was there. I'll have to ask him more if he remembers more details. But basically, you could be anywhere on the planet, and they can take you at night, and you can do all kinds of stuff. Right. And then they can turn you to bed, and you're not going to know what happened. And when he said that, I said, I don't have a conscious recall at this point, but I will get that eventually. And so I said, I believe you 100%. So I'm aware of that. I've been part of the I'm sure, Theresa, you're part of the Montauk program, and I recommend reading the whole. I'm going to reread the series of books, or at least watch the movie on it, because there's some keys there for us. And you said that you were there
in the Navy
in the 60s. That program's been going on for.
It had to go through.
Yeah, it's
Carl Schleicher, the smoking man in the Air Force, our mankind research, whatever. It was Dr. Miller that came on our show, and his wife. Remember, you just had a woman on last year with she and I. Iona Miller passed away, right?
Right.
And but anyway, all this is all combined. But that's only one thread. My thread is not to prove or disprove. The hospital in Canada and New York. I already know they were doing all that kind of work. I know I've done all the investigations on it. A very deep dive on it. So I don't think I was a part of that, because I was on the outside investigating it, if you know what I mean. So remember, I've been in the government.
You could be like this movie that Ron Howard did, Argyle, the investigator, but not realize what the levels of your involvement. And I think
it was always to work with extraterrestrials.
Our involvement goes back to our childhood, because both you and I had experience with extraterrestrials literally in the crib.
Well, the government's going to want to use that automatically, but the men in black, from what I understand, are the ones that would show up at midnight, always at midnight, and that's when they took me to see Jesse Marcel,
which we'll do in a future episode. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've got so many investigations, but the main ones I was concerned about was the Roswell at the time, because of the books I was put on the investigation for the gentleman. They wrote them with Stanton T. Friedman, and they had an upset. And I forgot the other guy's name. Jan Aldrich remembers him. He worked with him in D.C. But yeah, I go very back. We want to discuss Strom Thurmond and Philip Corso.
We're going to do, yeah.
Jesse Marcel, all those people that have a history way before we did. And Carl Lorenzen and her husband, and then McCarty Carla, before she married.
We're dropping a lot of names that I don't even know. So
they're all part of this history of
we're going to do a little bit at a time. This is going to take weeks. Bret, I hope you're patient.
Yeah, Bret, I'm definitely learning.
Well, does Bret have a list that you gave him of just?
I did. We haven't begun to touch the surface of that list. And then there's a
UFO business is split up, and right now we've got those that have the UFOs, the UAPs, right? And even my relatives, they don't look up UFOs anymore. They're following UAP. So I've got the UAP associates, but there's an old one from the government before we had the space program. And then I've got the UFO secret space program in social media on Facebook. Right.
So we're gonna
these are just people doing shows.
We're going to do is focus on your story, then my story, and we'll get to Bret's story. But all these things weave together. And we all have pieces of the puzzle, and it's going to take.
Swerlo can come on as well.
Yeah, I would like that.
And we can eventually get, if we can, get Stuart on.
Preston Dennett.
Preston. I had a table right beside Preston. He's great. He pumps out the book. Wow, he's a great guy. So let's. So what I I think we need to do it, because sometimes you do, I call it a word salad, and I'm lost, and I know your story. So we need to unpack your story, and that might be part of your programming, because when you start to reveal the truth, we just go blah, 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 blah. And it's like, wait a minute, TJ, we were on
which word triggers me, and which direction do we go? Well, that's what I'm trying to say. There's so many threads and tracks that make up this quilt. Coat of many colors are the Akashic field. We can all call it the Akashic field, or, bringing your chakras up and going through, and you're everything in the universe. So it's all out there, and we're all individuals, and we can all approach the data and, step it down to understand it when we're ready. And that's the key to me, is what I learned was when the belly is ready, because you don't want to be like Solomon in the Bible and poison yourself or others. And that was the whole point, in ascension, is doing it properly without, getting the food you need, the spiritual food you need to feed yourself to get to the higher levels, so you can be more than, with all these emotions and feelings. And so I call it spiritual science. It's not science. It's not spiritual. It's both.
We have 5 minutes left. So, Bret,
what do you see for the future?
Well, I think, for my own understanding, and I think I'm guessing for the viewers too, it's important to establish this kind of a mind control programming background or context with which you're kind of coming up. Not trying to judge how much or not you maybe have experienced that. But I think that's an important component to this, and it's good to have that in mind as we move through several of your stories and experiences to understand it, right? Because that helps me to understand more. Like Janet said, maybe part of the programming is when you start to get into an area that they don't want talked about, you go into many different directions at once, like this flowing river that those of us that love you experience when we talk to you.
Right.
And I think this episode has been pivotal in kind of breaking that down and bringing that out to light, because I can feel in my own very sensitive way, whatever level I'm at, that and so if I can feel it, it's probably true, that you really want to share some things that you might not consciously be aware of, but your soul or your spirit knows that some things have to come out. And I could be wrong, but I feel like Janet said earlier, we are just scratching the tip of the iceberg with you. And I feel lucky and honored to be a part of the journey of helping you to bring this stuff forward, because I think it's not just going to help you. It's going to help a lot of people that have been into the government projects or whatever to varying degrees for different times, different roles. But your experience is going to benefit a lot of people. So I really look forward to seeing that more and more of that stuff come out of you. So.
Well, remember, I went into law enforcement. So I was in the apprentice program for NASA, and then I went to law enforcement. That wasn't nice. No, I was seeking answers, and then I became a private investigator, and then I did that at the University of Alabama. I had assured confidential investigative reports, but I was always looking for answers. And then, I did my spiritual journey from 84 forward. Stephen Halpern was there when I was in the Golden Pyramid in Houston. I came back from Africa, and I was touching.
Stop you there, because we're wrapping up the show. We have a million.
I went on a spiritual journey that separated.
One thing here, so I met Dr. Lessin in 1997, and I moved in with him, and he had been deprogramming people for about 40, 50 years before I came on the scene. I came in 97. And since we were interested in ufology, and we went to Sitchin's thing, and we really, we met Stephen Greer and all these people at all these conferences.
Right.
And Greg Braden. We started getting a lot of clients that were in the UFO field. We started encountering the secret space program people before Corey Good and David Wilcox started talking about it. And sometimes they would say to us, I know I have programming. I want to make sure you have a rope and you tie me up, because there's a keyword.
I don't think I'll be saying that.
Well, here's what they said. This guy said, he said, if you hit my keyword, I will kill everybody in the room. So we
wasn't very nice.
He said, I have a keyword, and we'll take you. But I said, you want
I don't think we should be doing that kind of work.
It would have been great to have Bret there. I want you to have the biggest, strongest guy you know, and a big rope. And we're going to tie me up because I don't know. I can't stop myself. So anyway, we started working with these people 15, 20 years ago. And then it all started coming out. And I go, I know, Bret, you're onto it too. You realize it too. So it's not that we're not going to put you in that category.
Well, I keep an open mind. But remember, I'm on a spiritual journey and I'm about ascension.
Right.
And all this other stuff were jobs I had as an investigator or a ufologist at my choice, because I wanted to know the answers to why I was dying, why did it happen to me, why was I coming back in the same body, why did my uncles work at Los Alamos, why was I interested, and I stayed in the government and joined the Navy so I could come back in and find out the answers to my questions.
Right.
And that's when I went to Washington, D.C., and they denied that I was ever doing any intelligence work. With enough letters they sent me saying, you're not, going to be doing that kind of work. So, and yet I was doing that kind of work. So, but the difference was, and I know the rules in the world, there's in country and out of country, just like people want to dissolve the FBI or CIA, and they've always pulled the strings in other countries. And that's, right now, I think Tucker Carlson did a good job by going over and trying to bring Putin into the world and things like that.
I don't want to talk about Tucker Carlson and Putin. Okay.
Politics.
Politics. No politics. Okay. We'll do another show on politics, but not this one. So final word, Bret.
This is the, I think out of a few episodes we've done now, this is the one that really has shown me that the three of us are going to create some real magic.
That's all we can do.
It's tough. We have three distinct personalities here.
Yes.
We have three distinct ways of doing things.
You bet.
But tonight's show, I really feel like I got goosebumps right now. That really, once we've set the stage now with this kind of mind control programming background and context,
I don't know. I don't necessarily want to go there.
Like we're going to be able to move forward, and with each of our three stories, and that we're going to offer something for the public.
Well, there's a lot more programming. Everybody's programmed. If you watch TV, if you study parapsychology at all,
that's why they're called
psychology
programs.
Everybody's
that for no reason. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go now. We're going to stop now. It's enough because it'll be too long. Much love to everybody. Blessings and aloha. Thank you for joining us. We will see you again next week. Same channel.
Namaste.
Aloha.
Namaste.
I'm on my spiritual journey.
Bye-bye.